You've played against blink decks before. One creature disappears, comes back, and someone draws a card. But what if your commander could make your entire board blink over and over again? That's exactly what Yorion does best. And once the board starts dancing in and out of exile, the value starts to pile. Hi everyone, I'm Full Harmonicon, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about one of my personal commander decks, and one that I always have a blast playing. This commander is notorious in 60-card formats, and it was even banned in Modern. It's time to take to the skies with Yorion, Sky Nomad. And if you love exiling your own permanents, extracting value from repeated enter the battlefield effects, and eventually comboing off to win the game, this deck is for you. Yorion is a 4/5 bird serpent with flying. They have companion, but we don't have to worry about that in Commander. The real reason we're here is this one line of text. When Yorion enters the battlefield, exile any number of other non-land permanents you own and control, then return those cards to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. That means we have access to a powerful blink effect sitting right in the command zone. And once we find a way to blink Yorion itself, things start to get really silly. Yorion leaves, comes back, and blinks our entire board, which comes back on the next end step. Then, if Yorion returns during an end step, everything leaves again, but those permanents come back on the next end step. The end result is this hilarious little dance where your entire board flickers in and out of existence on everyone else's turns, constantly re-triggering all your enter the battlefield abilities. If you enjoy synergy-focused commander breakdowns like this, be sure to hit that subscribe. There's plenty more on the way. The game plan here is actually really straightforward. First, we develop our board with creatures and permanents that have enter the battlefield effects. We want card draw, ramp, and interaction all sitting on the battlefield waiting to be blinked. Then, we start flickering those permanents over and over again, generating more cards, more mana, and more removal while digging towards our combo pieces. Eventually, the value becomes overwhelming. We assemble one of our infinite blink combos and finish the game. Before we get into the combos, I have to say it. Pan Harmonicon. It's the channel's namesake, and honestly, I don't think there's a better home for it than this strategy. Every enter the battlefield trigger happens twice. That's double the card draw, double the ramp, double the interaction, and double the value from almost everything we're doing. Starfield Vocalist is essentially another Pan Harmonicon on a body. And if we blink it before it warps out, we get to keep it around for a reduced mana cost. Virtue of Knowledge lets us double one into the battlefield trigger early in the game, before becoming another permanent Panharmonicon effect later on. Now, let's get to the combos, because I know that's what everyone wants to see. Peregrine Drake, together with Ghostly Flicker or Displace, plus Archaeomancer, gives us infinite blinking, infinite enter the battlefield triggers, infinite leave the battlefield triggers, and infinite mana. Here's how it works. We tap 5 lands, cast Ghostly Flicker or Displace, blinking both Peregrine Drake and Archaeomancer. Archaeomancer returns our blink spell to our hand, while Peregrine Drake untaps our lands, letting us cast it again. Once we have infinite mana, we can simply keep blinking the Mancer and whatever permanents we want. The exact same combo also works with the Panharmonicon effect and Cloud of Fairies instead of the Drake. Deadeye Navigator paired with Peregrine Drake or a Panharmonicon effect and Cloud of Fairies also produces infinite blinking and infinite mana. We pair Deadeye Navigator with our land untapper, activate the blink ability, they immediately return and pair again, untap our lands, and repeat the process. Once we have infinite mana, we can blink Deadeye Navigator and blink any other creature we control as many times as we like. And remember, Deadeye Navigator and Cloud of Fairies actually go infinite by themselves, we just need a payoff. We have Philodar Guardian and Restoration Angel or Glasspool Mimic. These creatures repeatedly blink one another for infinite enter the battlefield triggers. Just remember that Restoration Angel and Glasspool Mimic don't work together by themselves. But add a Panharmonicon effect to the mix, and suddenly we're blinking our entire board as many times as we want. Another really fun interaction is any Panharmonicon effect, together with Peregrine Drake and Venser Shaper Savant. Peregrine Drake untaps lands twice thanks to Panharmonicon. We use that mana to cast Venser, Shaper Savant, bouncing both Peregrine Drake and Venser back to our hand before doing it all over again, for infinite mana and infinite triggers. Of course, infinite blinking doesn't actually win unless we have a payoff. That's where Altar of the Brood comes in, milling out every opponent as our permanents repeatedly enter the battlefield. Or, if you're feeling particularly evil, Agent of Treachery simply steals every permanent your opponents control. This one usually earns a collective groan from the table, followed fairly quickly by everyone scooping. Blessed Sanctuary gives us a slower, grindier win condition by building an army of tokens while making combat against us extremely awkward. I've already mentioned a few blink effects, but honestly, the more the better. Felidar Guardian and Restoration Angel work beautifully alongside Yorion. We blink Yorion, Yorion blinks our entire board, including whichever creature blinked it in the first place, and then everything returns together at the next end step. From there, we can simply repeat the process, creating that hilarious board-wide dance every turn cycle. Charming Prince and Flicker Wisp do something very similar, except Yorion comes back during the end step, blinks one of them, which then returns during the following end step to blink Yorion again. So instead of every turn, it happens every second player's turn. Soul Hooder, Airbender Ascension, Teleportation Circle, and Thassa, Deep Dwelling, all give us repeated blink engines that quietly generate value every single turn. Then we have emergency buttons like Eerie Interlude and Ghostway. These can completely dodge a board wipe, while bringing our creatures back later for another huge wave of into the battlefield triggers. Cheap spells like Ephemerate, Cloud Shift, Essence Flux, Flicker of Fate, and Momentary Blink are fantastic both defensively and offensively. They can save an important creature from removal or simply generate even more value whenever we need it. Card draw here is all built around Enter the Battlefield abilities. Spirited Companion and Helpful Hunter are both incredibly cute, and every blink simply draws us another card. Wall of Omens does the same thing while also giving us an early blocker. Cryogen Relic is especially fun because it rewards us both when it enters and when it leaves the battlefield. Cloud Blazer and Moldrifter each draw 2 cards every time they enter. We can even evoke Moldrifter, then blink it before the sacrifice trigger resolves, draw another 2 cards, and keep it around permanently. Ether Channeler is wonderfully flexible, letting us choose between drawing cards, creating a body, or bouncing an enemy permanent. Omen of the Sea smooths our draws with the Scry 2 before drawing a card. Seagate Oracle digs through our deck by letting us choose the better of 2 cards. Dowerport Mage rewards us every time creatures leave the battlefield without dying, which happens constantly in this deck. Then one of my favorites, Candlekeep Sage. Since we're repeatedly blinking Yorion, it triggers whenever Yorion enters or leaves the battlefield, often drawing us cards on nearly every player's turn. 4 cards every turn cycle really starts adding up. Our removal package follows the same philosophy. Reflector Mage repeatedly bounces opposing creatures while stopping them from immediately recasting them the next turn. Reality Acid is one of my favorite cards here. We enchant any permanent, blink Reality Acid, the enchanted permanent gets sacrificed, and then Reality Acid comes back attached to something else. Because it enters without being cast, it doesn't target when it reattaches, letting us answer permanents with hexproof. Lauren of the Third Path and Witch Enchanter keep opposing artifacts and enchantments under control. Skyclave Apparition repeatedly exiles troublesome non-land, non-token permanents with mana value 4 or less. For ramp, we've got plenty of options that become much stronger once blinking enters the picture. Solemn Simulacrum, Core Cartographer, and Scampering Surveyor all search up lands every single time they're blinked. The Mind Stone is fantastic here. Early on, it taps for white mana, and later in the game, it becomes another repeatable blink engine for one of our non-land permanents every end step. Thought Vessel and Decanter of Endless Water make sure we don't have to discard all the extra cards we're drawing. and even mana rocks like Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and Talisman of Progress have a neat interaction. Since they enter untapped after blinking, we can tap them again for even more mana. There aren't too many lands with direct blink synergy, but there are still some excellent utility options. Reliquary Tower helps us keep all those extra cards we've been drawing. Mystic Sanctuary can put one of our blink spells back on top of our library when we need it. Scavenger Grounds gives us some free graveyard hate without taking up another spell slot. Yorion is honestly one of the most enjoyable blink commanders I've ever played. Watching your entire board perform this strange little dance every turn cycle never really gets old. There are definitely a lot of triggers to keep track of, so it's easy to miss one or two while you're learning the deck. But once the engine starts humming, every blink generates more value. Every instep feels productive, and it quickly becomes incredibly difficult for your opponents to keep up. If you enjoy decks that reward careful sequencing, clever synergy, and massive into the battlefield value, I can't recommend Yorion enough. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more synergy-focused Commander content. If you'd like to support the channel further and help vote on future videos, memberships are available. And hey, if you're picking up any of these cards, consider using my TCG Player affiliate link down below. And until next time, may all your ETBs be doubled.